They've got difficult times in education when it comes to the economics of things. That is to say, are you making job cuts?
Yeah, we are. I met with non-classroom based staff on Monday, so the staff, the admin staff that support the teachers in preparation, etc. I met with 39 of them on Monday to say that we're going to have to restructure, and the likely outcome of that restructure, it'll be finalised on Friday, is that there'll be some redundancies, which is tough. I've worked at Parsons 15 years. There's people in front of me that worked here for 28 years, and it's difficult. I know these people. They're not just employees. They come to my house every summer for a barbecue. You know, it's tough, and it's interesting because I've obviously had to tell the rest of the staff, and a few people say, "You're all right." I was like, "Don't think for me. I'm sitting this side of it. They're sitting in the audience thinking I might not be able to pay my mortgage at the end of September." You know, so it's tough, but at the moment, I have no choice. My job's to protect what's going on in the classroom, and so you look at what you can do. So I'm losing a vice principal on Friday, tomorrow, because he's got a headship, which is fantastic, in the Grand Cayman Islands. That's another economic conversation, but he's leaving, and I'm not replacing him. You know, I've lost staff at the sort of the leadership end of school the last couple of years and not replaced them in order to try and avert this, because you know, it's important that we protect what goes on in the classroom at the moment, but it's not easy. I love this school and I love the people who work in it, so it's tough.
So, a ballpark figure, how many jobs may go?
7 to 10. Yeah, 7 to 10.
To many people, to the man on the street and to the mum outside the school gates, this has come as a complete shock. Why has this come as a complete shock?
I don't think it should have done. You know, we have democracy in this country, and we fought very hard for that, and that's the right thing to have. You know, I'm a massive supporter of democracy, and we voted in a government that said this is the way, this is the direction of travel. Austerity is the direction of travel. That's what the Conservative government think is the right way to get us out of the economic situation we're in, and they've been very open about public service cuts. They did say that school budgets will be protected in real terms, and so they're right to a degree. We had the same money coming in, but as the same money came in, they asked us to increase our payment into pensions and to national insurance. So the income may be the same, but the expenditure went up from the government. You know, they asked us for more money back. And alongside that, you know, you could look at the whole school budget, but there's lots of little grants and funds that came from government that supported the budget too. So one of the big ones for me is I stood up in September in front of Year 6 parents who were choosing their secondary school and said, if you choose Passmore's and you get in, we'll have a summer school. We always have a summer school because it's really good for Year 6 into Year 7. They spend a week in the school, they get to know it, so when they turn up in September, it's not scary, or as scary. Day after we broke up for the Christmas holidays, we get an announcement that the funding for summer schools has been cut. So I lose £34,000 out of the budget. And I've already publicly committed to parents that we're going to have a summer school, and please book your holidays around it. So parents will have done that. So I've got to run a summer school. So I've got to find £34,000 to do that. You know, there's other grants, education services grant, there's cuts to that, which doesn't count in our main budget, but it means a £90,000 loss for us this year. During the year we've announced that. So I haven't been out of budget for that. That has just come out of the blue. So it shouldn't be a surprise to people. I think what probably is a surprise is the fact that it's hitting their schools and their children. And you know, my job as somebody who's trying to organise and manage a budget means that, you know, I've got to protect what I can. I mean, actually, you probably won't be able to see it, but that's our budget line. So this is us at September, and by January 2017, I won't be able to pay my staff if I do nothing. So I have no choice but to do something, and so I've got to decide what's the most important thing for us to protect. So, you know, learning support assistants, teachers, they need to be protected first because they deal directly with children.
Does that, again, I'm going to ask these questions for the benefit, as I said, of the mum outside the school gates, and is that going to create some sort of two nations, that there's us and them within your schools now, not only yours, you know, because you've got the people who see the non-teaching and the teaching? Is there a danger of that?
I think it's incredibly damaging potential ethos on the feel of a school. You know, I'll be honest, I announced this on Monday, so 3-4 days ago. I go into some rooms and it goes instantly silent right now. And of course it does, I'm the boss. So that I'm the person who's the focus of that conversation. And that's hard, because these are people that I've known for 15 years, you know, at least. So, yeah, they can feel them and us, but actually that's a harsh reality of a tough decision. And as one of my deputies used to say, that's why you're paid the most of it, because you've got to make them.
Because you brought up the subject of pay. You know, some of us go back to the 70s where Mr. O'Shea at St Mark's lived around the corner in Willerfield and drove in his Land Rover to St Mark's, and I don't know what he was on. But people now see these, whether it's Daniel Moynihan at Harris Federation on £400,000 a year.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't think that's been confirmed though, allegedly, isn't it?
No, but you can go. I can go to DfE and see accounts of schools
of course you can.
with heads on £170,000. I've got heads on primaries with £35,000 pay increases last year, according to the stats. So again, we talk about this two nations. Again, for head teacher, people are saying you're the fat cat, Vic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't disagree that that's something that could be put us. I don't disagree with that, and you know, I hope I give value for money. That's down to my governors to decide what that is. You know, I'm on a good salary. Don't get me wrong, I am. You know, I'm responsible for the running of 3 schools of 1,500 children's futures, and they're keeping them safe and happy and all those sorts of things. So yeah, and that's something I need to reflect on as this goes forward. What has been really interesting is as I've announced that to the specific staff that are involved, and I've also told the other staff, how many of my staff have come up and said, I don't want to, you know, I'll work for less. You know, I have 3 or 4 staff come and say, I'll work for less, just let me keep my job. That's tough, because that precedent you set on doing that, you know, is not sustainable over time. It's certainly not sustainable in an environment where then that becomes, well, I'm willing to take a pay cut, but you're not. That then causes even more of a rift. So I've never lived through this before, I have to say. My chair of governors is an ex-head teacher, and I asked him, is this what happened to you when you were in? I think he said he managed to avoid it mainly. So it's something that we sort of knew was likely, and we've tried for a really long time to avoid that. You know, science technicians, ones retiring end of the year, won't be replaced. Vice principal leaving, won't be replaced. We're going from 210 kids in year 7 to 240 in September, and not necessarily increasing by the normal number of staff we would do. You know, that has an effect on the teachers in the classroom, but actually they're the ones who should be affected, not the kids.
Are there schools that could, I know you might say I have to ask those schools, but is there a concern that there might be, because you're all businesses, quasi businesses, are there some schools that may not become economically viable?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if it happened locally, but I certainly worked in an area in the past where 4-day weeks happened in schools, you know, back in the 80s. And that's possible. Democracy says we voted for a government that's got austerity as its route out of economic difficulties, and therefore we've got cuts, so we've got to deal with it.
So, have you spoken to Robert Halfon, and what type of
I haven't yet, actually. I emailed Robert on Monday after I'd met with the staff, because I wasn't going to tell him before I told them. I emailed him on Monday. He hasn't got back to me yet. He will do. There is zero animosity towards Robert from me. Absolutely zero. Robert is a fantastic constituency MP for me. He supports my school. He supports my young people. I don't necessarily agree with his government's agenda, but that's fine. You know, and I have a right to vote in my voting station as much as anybody else does. But I know Robert will be concerned. You know, I've heard obviously Burt Mill announced got into the press this week that they've had to do something similar. They've gone down a slightly different route to us, and we will make our own choices about our businesses. But you know, I hate using the word business about school, but I am running an organisation that relies on public funds, and therefore you need to be business-like, even if you're not feeling like you're a business. And I'm told this is what businesses feel like. This is what business-like feels like. So get up.
Because again, going back to just to make sure we're clear here, because there is a teacher shortage, isn't there? And Essex County Council had put out recruitment. There's a big banner outside St Albans looking for teachers, and so I guess that creates a little bit of confusion, doesn't it? That you'll still be. Are you still actively looking for teachers?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, Sam. You know, and it's.
But can a maths teacher name his price?
They'd like to. Some of them. I think that's my biggest fear is that when you compound less budgets with shortages, you know, prices go up. And I have seen schools not too far away offering more money for those subjects. I'm hoping that I have a product here at Passmore's which is a tough place to work, but a good place to work, where staff are valued and the relationships are valued. That means actually that's worth more than money. I may be living in a cloud. You know, I may not be living in reality, but I'm really going to hold on to my cloud for as long as I possibly can, and people will get paid the same as everything else. I don't consider a maths teacher to be more important than a drama or dance teacher. However, if there's less of them, I can tell you I appointed 2 before Christmas. through an agency, overseas, Skype interview. Yeah, great, we'll have both. I really wanted one, but I'll take both because you have to protect yourself. 2 days later, they come back to me, yeah, you can have them, but they now both want more money. And so I didn't take them, because actually that would have meant one other person losing their job probably here. So I teach some maths this year. I've got a maths degree, so that's fine. I'm loving that, because I go into my classroom and I close the door and they leave me alone, which is lovely. But it's
you slipped in there that you've got a maths degree. That's been something people are concerned about, that people without proper qualifications will be teachers. Does that occur here?
Not yet, but who knows? You know, I think the Office of National Statistics report that came out yesterday said 24% of all physics lessons currently are taught with people that have not got more qualifications than an A-level. I think we are a profession, and therefore that comes with a level of qualification that should be inherent within that. And if we lose that, then I think we lose a huge amount from our schools and we become instructors and not teachers. But I can't say never to anything at the moment.
You obviously share a lot of good practice and share a lot of information, whether it's one-to-one or indeed on Twitter and social media. Is this feeling? It feels a bit of a crisis a couple of days in Harlow. Is this similar in other areas, or are other areas, can I say, sweeping under the carpet? I think there was something out in the press last week. 133 academies have announced redundancies in the last couple of weeks. I don't think it's over the next year. I think every school is going to be in a certain position. I think we probably made ourselves more vulnerable in some ways, because we get money every year for the kids that are in our school that year, and I've chosen to spend almost all of that money that year on those kids. And I know some schools have made the decision to keep a bit back, build up a nest egg, and then actually they can get through these difficult times. And right now, that seems like a really good idea, but actually, when that money arrives next year for your child in my school, and I say, well, I should be spending all of it on your child, but I'm only going to spend 95% of it, I'm going to keep 5% in order, just in case we have a rainy day at some stage in the future. That's not how I run my school. You know, my governors have always pulled their hair out about how close to zero we've got at the end of every year, but actually, I get money this year for these kids, so I spend it this year on these kids. And that means that if rainy days happen, and it's quite wet at the moment, I've got no cushion. I've got no contingency there, which is probably a really bad way to run a business. But I'm running an organisation that's about children. How do we know? How do we know that this isn't actually? Could we be in 4 years' time saying, "Are we worried about 2016?" You know, could this get worse?
Yeah, I think we're predicting about a 7% budget deficit decrease every year for the next 4 years. So every year I've got to find 7% worth of efficiencies, or I've got to increase income. You know, we have a fantastic building, we're really lucky, and it's a huge community resource. You come here on a Saturday, there's as many kids in on a Saturday as there is on a Friday. And we charge for that. We charge the organisations that use it. So we will maximise what we can out of this building. But obviously there's always a payoff from that, because then the building gets more damaged and gets more use, and then you have to repair it. And so there's always that balance. You know, we've got to maximise income by being as efficient as we possibly can. And because it's going to hit secondaries first, because we have a bigger pension deficit, we have a bigger national insurance contribution, it's going to hit secondaries first, and it is, that's very obvious. And we're a MAT, so we have 3 schools in our multi-academy trust, us and 2 primary schools, and it's only happening at Passmore's, because it's a Passmore's problem for me. Their budget is balanced at the moment. However, those heads are very aware that potentially it hits them next, so they're doing as much efficiency stuff as they can now, but this is an issue around our secondary school in our partnership, not our primary school, so we'll stick with doing that. I've got to maintain what goes on in the classroom. These kids need to feel safe. That's the most important thing. And if I lose people that keep our children safe, support them in their learning, then actually I'm doing something wrong. Admin staff support teachers, so therefore teachers need to work harder. That's the way it is, and I literally, just before you come in, I've had that exact meeting with my teachers. You know, normally we would do revision classes over half term, and staff would get paid to come in to do extra classes. I've made it very clear to them that I can't pay them, and if they don't wish to do it anymore, they don't have to. Thankfully, they all are. But you know, that's the nature.
So finally, we've asked about your message to the parent on the school gates. People listen to you, Vic. What's your message? And I know, what's your message to Nicky Moore or indeed David Cameron?
I think that schools have been made an exception in many ways. Okay, with regards to, we were funded very well under Labour government prior to 2010, and actually it's been tighter, but that's the nature of where we are. Maybe they could think that actually there's some other exceptions that they should make from schools. Maybe they shouldn't have asked us for more pension and national insurance contributions. Maybe they should have found that from somebody who isn't trying to improve our country's children and therefore our country's future. They need to look at different ways, and they need to help us with the teacher recruitment crisis before that becomes an even bigger issue about money and we have to pay more and more. There's some simple things, but they actually need to protect schools a little bit more than they are. And it's not about teachers' jobs, it's about children's futures.
Good God, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.